They sell you dreams in the language of guidance. Get a mentor, they say. Follow someone who's already succeeded. It sounds harmless, even wise, until you realize the entire structure of modern mentorship has evolved into a commercial dependency disguised as help. Mentorship today is no longer about building independence. It's about manufacturing customers who never stop needing the mentor. Welcome to the new economy of mentorship, an economy of psychological contracts, unspoken hierarchies, and subtle manipulations that keep you locked in cycles of learning but never authoring. This is Trading Rebels, where we rebel against the systems of illusion and reclaim the right to think, trade, and create on our own terms. Let's begin with the first layer of the scam, the economy of paid dependency. You see, mentorship used to be sacred. It was about apprenticeship, about being guided toward mastery so that one day you could stand on your own feet. Today, mentorship has become the new subscription plan. You pay monthly for proximity. You pay for signals of authority. You pay for someone else's confidence to mask your uncertainty. It's the comfort economy of the lost trader. The structure is simple. They sell hope, and you keep paying to borrow it. Every modern mentor understands one secret. Dependency is profitable. Independence is not. A free thinker doesn't renew subscriptions. A structurally grounded trader doesn't need weekly motivation. A self-directed mind doesn't crave validation. And so the modern mentorship model must always keep you slightly hungry, slightly doubtful, slightly unprepared. Because the moment you feel fully equipped, the cycle breaks and their income vanishes. The scam is not always intentional. Sometimes it's structural. The mentor becomes addicted to being needed, and the student becomes addicted to being told. What emerges is not education. It's captivity disguised as guidance. The deeper problem is that dependency changes your internal architecture. You start thinking in borrowed voices. Every market move must be validated. Every idea must be approved. You stop trading your convictions and start trading your mentor's reactions. Even when you win, it doesn't feel like victory. It feels like permission granted. That's the cost of paid dependency. It's the quiet death of creative authorship. Let's get real. Most mentorships are not structured to end. They are structured to renew. The mentor's success depends on your continued uncertainty. They'll give you just enough knowledge to keep you curious, but never enough to make you independent. It's the slow-release drug of modern education. Every session, every course, every VIP group, promising transformation but delivering only extension. You pay not for skill, but for emotional oxygen, the illusion of progress that keeps you coming back for air. And yet, you can't entirely blame the mentors. The system rewards those who can monetize authority. The marketplace doesn't pay for truth, it pays for demand, and dependency is the most reliable form of demand. The problem, however, is not the payment, it's the posture. When you pay to learn, you should be paying for structure, not for safety. You should be paying to dismantle dependency, not deepen it. But the current system doesn't encourage that. It teaches you how to survive as a follower, not how to evolve as an author. Think about how mentorship is marketed today. If you're struggling, it's because you don't have guidance. If you want consistency, you need someone who's already done it. If you want results faster, you need mentorship. Every word is strategically placed to make you feel inadequate, because inadequacy sells. They've found a way to commodify your uncertainty. They've packaged your confusion and branded it as opportunity. Here's the painful irony. Mentorship was supposed to teach you how to think, not who to follow. But somewhere along the line, mentorship became mentorship without exit plans. You are not being trained for independence. You're being conditioned for lifetime access. The promise is, stay close to me and you'll win. But the truth is, the closer you stay, the less you grow. Every month you renew the subscription, you unconsciously affirm your belief that you can't do this alone. And belief in trading is architecture. You are reinforcing the very structure that ensures your dependency. Let's call this what it is, the outsourcing of self-trust. That's what you're paying for, not mentorship, but rented confidence. You're not buying structure, you're renting conviction. And that's why no matter how many mentorships you join, the uncertainty never disappears. Because you're not solving the root problem, you're feeding it. You've replaced your lack of knowledge with a cycle of paid reassurance. It feels like growth, but it's not. It's consumption disguised as progress. The tragedy is that traders mistake mentorship for structure. Structure is internal, repeatable, and self-generating. Mentorship is external, conditional, and often manipulative. When mentorship is pure, it transfers structure. When mentorship is corrupt, it transfers dependency. And the difference between the two is simple. Real mentorship teaches you how to think. The counterfeit version teaches you how to obey. Dependency destroys initiative. You start waiting for confirmation, waiting for analysis, waiting for permission. You no longer engage the market as a designer. You engage as a spectator, waiting for the commentator's approval. That's why most traders inside mentorship programs can't execute without external stimulus. Their entire trading psychology is outsourced. When the mentor stops speaking, the student stops thinking. The silence feels like danger, and the absence of instruction feels like loss. That's how deep the trap goes. There's something psychologically seductive about dependency. It feels safe. It feels warm. You don't have to confront uncertainty because someone else has done it for you. But safety is an expensive illusion. Every time you buy certainty, you sell your capacity for creative problem solving. You become an algorithm of another person's mind. You begin to see the market through their lens, not your own. You stop perceiving structure. You start perceiving approval. Here's what you must understand. No amount of mentorship can replace the pain of authorship, and that's why so few ever escape the loop. Authorship demands solitude. It demands ownership. It demands that you build, test, fail, refine, and rise without applause. Mentorship is attractive because it lets you borrow clarity. Authorship is difficult because it demands that you generate it. But the traders who rise to mastery all walk through that valley alone. They may have learned principles from others, but they built the framework themselves. The modern mentorship industry thrives because it preys on the fear of isolation. Don't do it alone, they say. You'll lose without community. And while community has value, dependency is its shadow. There's a difference between connection and captivity. Mentorship that doesn't move you toward autonomy isn't guidance, it's a leash. Even worse, many mentors unconsciously train you to see them as irreplaceable. Their voice becomes the gatekeeper of your belief system. You measure your worth by how much access you have. You feel superior to others because you're inside the circle. That's not mentorship. That's a cult of borrowed identity. The moment you can't trade without your mentor's next session, you're not a trader. You're a subscriber. And subscribers don't evolve, they renew. The final layer of paid dependency is emotional branding. Mentors have learned to anchor themselves in your journey emotionally. They don't just sell knowledge, they sell belonging. You begin to equate mentorship with meaning. And when you finally realize it's not working, leaving feels like betrayal. You stay, not because it's helping, but because you've been emotionally conditioned to equate loyalty with progress. The truth is that mentorship, when corrupted, doesn't teach you to become independent. It teaches you to fear independence. It trains you to seek external validation for internal decisions. It steals the friction that builds character. And when you remove friction, you remove formation. That's why traders jump from mentorship to mentorship like addicts, each time hoping the next will finally fix them. But the only fix is structure. The only cure for dependency is authorship. The rebels understand this. They don't reject mentorship entirely. They redefine it. They extract principles, not permission. They learn from structures, not personalities. They honor teachers, but never worship them. Because they know that freedom in trading begins when you no longer need to be told what to do. So the next time someone offers mentorship as a shortcut to mastery, ask yourself, will this program end with me needing them less or more? If the answer is more, you already know it's not mentorship. It's dependency packaged as education. The old system sells you certainty, but rebels design their own. That's the difference between being taught and being trained, between following and authoring. And that is the first layer of the great mentorship scam, the illusion of help that builds dependency, the illusion that paying for proximity equals progress, the illusion that authority can be transferred through access. But the truth is simple. Structure can only be authored, not bought. Here's the dangerous thing about mentorship culture. It teaches traders to borrow conviction instead of building it. When someone sells you a system, they're not really selling you structure, they're selling you certainty. And that certainty feels intoxicating when you've spent years doubting yourself. You buy the dream of conviction because yours has been battered by losses, hesitation, and fear. But what you don't realize is, you can't outsource belief. You can borrow someone's strategy, but you can't borrow their conviction. That's the hidden flaw. Conviction that isn't authored from within will always collapse under pressure. You see it every day. Traders jump into setups they didn't design, using tools they don't understand, repeating affirmations that don't belong to them. I trust the process. The market always gives me another chance. Stick to the plan. But it's not their plan. It's a rehearsed script. It's belief in another man's architecture. So, the moment price moves against them, that borrowed conviction expires. Because conviction only survives in the soil of authorship. And if the system didn't grow from your understanding, it won't stand in your uncertainty. This is why so many traders can quote their mentor's teachings word for word, yet still panic the moment the market challenges them. They've learned language without ownership. Their conviction is linguistic, not structural. It's like memorizing prayers you don't understand. The words sound right, but there's no power behind them. That's the crisis of mentorship. It replaces internal construction with external confidence. You're not learning how to trust yourself. You're learning how to imitate someone else's trust. Borrowed conviction gives you a temporary sense of safety. It feels like certainty because someone with more experience once said it worked. You follow their rules, mirror their tone, mimic their discipline. But markets aren't impressed by mimicry. They test authenticity. They push until your imitation collapses and only your truth remains. The painful revelation comes when you realize your truth was never built. It was only copied. Let's talk about the psychological cost of this. Every time you take a trade that isn't yours, you condition your mind to distrust yourself a little more. Because even if it wins, the credit doesn't belong to you. You celebrate someone else's design while your own intuition goes untrained. And when it loses, you don't know whether to blame yourself or your mentor. You're trapped in ambiguity, dependent when right, resentful when wrong. That's not growth, that's bondage. And the industry thrives on that bondage. Mentors know how to feed it. They'll tell you conviction comes from trust in the mentor, not trust in yourself. They'll tell you, if you just follow what I say, you'll succeed. And for a while you do, because it feels easier than thinking. But thinking is the birth of conviction. The process of struggling through your own uncertainty, questioning your assumptions, testing your patterns, that's how conviction is born. Without that struggle, you're just a believer, not a builder. Mentorship without liberation breeds dependency. And dependency produces conformity. Traders who all sound the same, younger and trade the same, fail the same. You can scroll through trading social media and see the clones. Everyone parroting the same mindset slogans. Discipline equals freedom. Trust the process. Risk small. Think big. But if you look closely, they're not thinking at all. They're reciting. And recitation never created conviction. It creates compliance. Borrowed conviction is seductive because it removes responsibility. When you're following someone else's structure, your ego is protected. You can always say, well, I did what my mentor said. You never have to confront your own design flaws because the design wasn't yours to begin with. You never have to face your creative deficiency because you've outsourced it. You can look consistent while being hollow. You can look confident while being dependent. True conviction doesn't come from obedience. It comes from authorship. It's not inherited, it's forged. You build it by wrestling with doubt until your structure becomes stronger than your fear. You test your system in real uncertainty, not to prove it works for someone else, but to prove it belongs to you. Conviction isn't when you believe it works, it's when you know you can work it. That's the path most traders never walk, because mentorship has made them allergic to self-reliance. They've been told conviction is dangerous, that thinking for themselves will make them inconsistent. But inconsistency is a phase of authorship, not a flaw. It's the creative friction that shapes real understanding. If you skip that phase by borrowing someone else's conviction, you skip your own becoming. You remain emotionally dependent on borrowed confidence instead of structurally grounded in your own. Every time you take a trade from someone else's conviction, you deepen your psychological debt. You owe them belief. You owe them certainty. You owe them gratitude. But conviction shouldn't put you in debt. It should free you from dependence. Yet the system of mentorship makes sure it doesn't, because as long as you're borrowing conviction, you'll always need to renew it. You'll always come back for validation, reassurance, or permission. That's why the mentorship economy is never ending. It feeds on borrowed conviction like a subscription model, emotional Netflix. You keep paying monthly, not for new knowledge, but for renewed confidence. Because you've been trained to believe you can't trust your own eyes. You see the market through your mentor's lens, not your own. Every setup you find must match what you were taught. Every doubt must be silenced by what was said. And every creative impulse gets killed by fear of deviation. That's not conviction. That's indoctrination. Borrowed conviction destroys intuition. It disconnects you from your own pattern recognition. You stop seeing the market as a field of discovery and start seeing it as a test of obedience. You stop exploring. You stop questioning. You become a consumer of confidence, not a creator of clarity. And when the system changes, because it always does, you're left stranded, waiting for a new mentor to lend you new conviction. The rebellion begins when you stop renting belief and start building it. When you say, "I'm done outsourcing certainty." That's when you start thinking differently. You stop following charts for validation and start designing from comprehension. You stop asking, "What would my mentor do?" and start asking, "What would I create here?" You stop chasing confidence and start constructing competence. Because real conviction is competence in motion. You'll lose at first, not because you're wrong, but because you're raw. But that rawness is sacred. It's the birthplace of mastery. When you trade with your own conviction and it fails, you learn. When you trade with borrowed conviction and it fails, you doubt. That's the difference. One produces growth, the other produces dependency. The truth is, no one can give you conviction. They can only model it. And modeling should inspire you to construct your own version, not clone theirs. The best mentors don't create followers. They create authors. They teach you to architect your own belief system, not to live in theirs. But the industry doesn't reward that, because an independent trader doesn't keep paying. That's why this illusion must be broken, because borrowed conviction might look like progress, but it's really paralysis in disguise. It's movement without creation, and the more you borrow, the less you build. Conviction is the byproduct of authorship, not association. It's the proof that you've faced chaos and emerged with structure. And no mentor can do that for you. You must go through that initiation yourself. Only then will your conviction stop shaking when the market does. Only then will you stop mistaking confidence for clarity. That's when you stop being a student of systems and start becoming a creator of one. That's when you graduate from mentorship to mastery. Not because someone certified you, but because you authored belief from within. And when you do, you'll finally understand. Conviction borrowed is conviction lost. But conviction built, that's conviction eternal. Here's the part of the story nobody likes to admit. Traders love shortcuts. Not because they're lazy, but because they're tired. Tired of confusion. Tired of watching others win faster. Tired of the endless uncertainty that comes with trying to figure it all out. And mentorship programs know this. They market directly to that exhaustion. They sell you the illusion of acceleration, the promise that you can skip the chaos and arrive at mastery through someone else's roadmap. But mastery never comes discounted. You can't fast forward your way through structure. And yet, every day, thousands of traders fall for the same narrative. I'll teach you in 6 weeks what took me 6 years. That line alone has enslaved more traders than losses ever did, because it preys on the one thing every struggling trader secretly believes, that they're just one secret away, that there's a missing puzzle piece hidden somewhere in a mentor's course that will finally make everything click. And so they buy another program, another mentorship, another shortcut, only to end up right where they started. Except this time, they're not just broke financially, they're bankrupt mentally. Because hope spent repeatedly becomes fatigue. Shortcut illusions are the sugar high of the trading world. They give you a quick rush of belief. You feel clarity for a moment, you feel confident for a week, you think you've found the thing. But soon, reality returns. The process is still the process. The grind still exists. The patience still hurts. The market still doesn't care how much you paid to learn. Because structure isn't bought, it's built. Every shortcut skips the part that builds you. And that's why it never lasts. You can skip steps in theory, but not in nature. You can skip lessons in content, but not in consciousness. Every trader who skips the grind eventually revisits it, except this time, they come back wounded. The shortcut illusion doesn't just rob you of time, it robs you of depth. You get results you can't repeat, strategies you can't explain, confidence you can't sustain. And when the illusion collapses, you start to think you failed, when really, the shortcut did. Think about it. Every structure, whether a building, a model, or a mindset, must be layered. Foundation first, then framing, then form. You can't put a roof over a hole, yet that's what shortcuts do. They put roofs on holes, they cover gaps in understanding with confidence tricks. They make you look consistent before you are, and that's the problem. Your identity doesn't catch up. You start identifying with results you don't understand, which means the moment the results disappear, your confidence disappears too. You weren't trained, you were tricked. This is how the shortcut industry sustains itself. It sells speed to the impatient and simplicity to the overwhelmed. You don't need to know all that, they'll say. Just use my 3-step strategy. But simplicity without structure is suicide. You might get short-term precision, but not long-term perception. And trading isn't about short-term wins. It's about sustained authorship. The ability to replicate clarity across uncertainty. No shortcut can give you that. Here's the truth. Shortcuts exist because traders confuse access with advancement. Just because you have access to someone's knowledge doesn't mean you've advanced in understanding. You can be surrounded by information and still starve for insight. And mentorship has become the middleman between your laziness and your illusion, offering faster understanding while secretly keeping you dependent on them for renewal. It's a system built on repetition of failure disguised as progress. The illusion of shortcuts also lives in language. Words like blueprint, hack, fast track, and accelerator. They're designed to seduce the part of you that's afraid of time. But time is the forge of structure. There's no way around it. The longer you resist it, the longer your maturity delays. The market doesn't reward the fastest, it rewards the most structured. But the shortcut culture has trained you to think speed equals intelligence. So you rush into knowledge you can't integrate, trades you can't sustain, and confidence you can't justify. You've probably noticed this cycle. Every few months there's a new strategy circulating. Smart money, Wyckoff, order blocks, ICT, supply and demand. Everyone runs to the next one, chasing clarity like it's a trend. But that's not learning. That's hopping from illusion to illusion. You don't evolve that way, you fragment. And with every new shortcut you chase, your original structure becomes weaker. You're like a building that keeps replacing its foundation instead of reinforcing it. The illusion of shortcuts is powerful because it masquerades as evolution. You think you're progressing because you're learning new things, but in truth, you're avoiding depth. You're moving horizontally, not vertically. You're adding knowledge, not building wisdom. Real wisdom grows slowly. It's layered through repetition, reflection, and refinement. But shortcuts offer dopamine, not depth. They give you the high of learning without the discipline of comprehension. That's why it feels good and fails fast. The deeper truth here is that shortcuts exist to comfort the unstructured. When your internal world lacks order, you crave external speed. You think if you can move faster, you can escape the uncertainty within. But uncertainty isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. Every master trader you admire didn't escape uncertainty. They structured it. They turned chaos into clarity, not by skipping the process, but by surrendering to it. That's the difference between those who create systems and those who chase them. Mentorship often disguises this. It tells you, you don't need to go through what I went through, but you do, because what they went through is the very thing that built their understanding. When you pay to skip pain, you also skip wisdom. When you pay to skip confusion, you skip creativity. Confusion is the gate of comprehension. Without walking through it, you never own what you learn. You just rent it until it stops working. Then you move to the next shortcut and the cycle repeats. The illusion of shortcuts also kills curiosity, because when you think you've found the secret, you stop exploring. You stop questioning. You stop observing with innocence. And the moment curiosity dies, growth stops. You start defending what you've learned instead of expanding what you understand. You become a loyalist to a method instead of a student of the market. You trade belief systems instead of price systems. You'll often hear traders say, "I just want something that works." But that's a lazy question. Everything works until it doesn't. The right question isn't what works, it's what works for me. And that question can't be answered by a shortcut. It's answered by testing, observing, reflecting, by building. Shortcuts sell pre-made belief systems. They don't teach you to design. And that's why most traders fail after every mentorship. They've collected beliefs that were never tailored to their temperament. You can't trade another person's psychology. You can't fast forward your way into alignment. The shortcut that fits your mentor might destroy you. Not because it's wrong, but because it's not yours. But the industry doesn't care, because customization doesn't scale. Mass mentorship needs uniformity to survive. So it promotes systems you can easily consume, not ones you can deeply internalize. That's why shortcut culture isn't about trading. It's about trafficking belief. It's a marketplace of mental convenience, a place where traders trade accountability for acceleration. You give up your creative right to build in exchange for the illusion of speed. And when it collapses, they sell you another shortcut, the advanced version this time, and you believe it again because you're addicted to the feeling of proximity to success, not success itself. To escape shortcut illusions, you must reframe your relationship with time. Stop fearing the process. Stop trying to reach mastery fast. The goal isn't to reach mastery, it's to become it. Every stage of struggle is structural development. Every failed setup is data. Every delay is refinement. But mentorship culture has trained you to treat delay as failure, to think you're behind because someone else arrived first. That's not how mastery works. Mastery doesn't have a finish line. It has a foundation. The rebellion begins when you stop asking, "How fast can I learn this?" and start asking, "How deeply can I understand this?" Because when you start building deeply, speed becomes irrelevant. You're no longer racing, you're structuring. And when you structure correctly, results accelerate naturally, not because you forced speed, but because you aligned with sequence. That's what the shortcuts never tell you. There's no such thing as speed without sequence. Every shortcut that promises acceleration without structure is just delay in disguise. You'll still pay, not with money this time, but with years of mental reset. You'll have to unlearn every fast trick before you can relearn real understanding. And that's the price of shortcuts. They cost you the time they promise to save. That's the real scam of mentorship. It turns impatience into a product. It monetizes your fear of slowness. It teaches you to confuse pace with progress, and it keeps you trapped in the illusion that someone out there has already done the hard part for you, when in truth, the hard part is the part that makes you who you must become. Here's where the illusion gets darker, because the mentorship game doesn't stop at shortcuts or borrowed conviction. It evolves into something far more manipulative, the guru trap. The guru trap is the final form of the scam. It's when the mentor stops teaching and starts conditioning. It's not about helping you see. It's about making sure you never look without them. It's when mentorship transforms from guidance to godhood. And in trading, this trap has destroyed more minds than bad entries ever did. You know the type. The trading guru who speaks like a prophet, not a practitioner. The one who doesn't just sell education, they sell identity. You stop learning how to trade and start learning how to worship. Their tone, their charts, their lingo, their rituals all become your new religion. You quote them like scripture. You defend them like family. You stop questioning because you're afraid questioning might break your access to their secret knowledge. That's not mentorship. That's mind capture. The guru trap thrives because traders crave certainty, and certainty is the guru's drug of choice. They promise you answers when what you actually need are better questions. They give you rules instead of frameworks, entries instead of principles. You stop thinking structurally and start reacting religiously. You start believing your mentor is the market, and every doubt you feel is treated like disobedience. That's not education. That's indoctrination. The irony? Most gurus started the same way you did, lost, searching, desperate to understand. But at some point, they realized there's more money in selling the dream than trading the truth. They stopped building their craft and started building their cult. And because you were conditioned by mentorship to seek certainty outside yourself, you fell right into their design. You traded one dependency for another. Here's how the trap works. First, they elevate themselves beyond reproach. They show curated wins, extravagant lifestyles, emotional authority. Then they subtly redefine the relationship. It's no longer mentor to student, it's savior to believer. Once you believe they have access to what you don't, they've got you. Because now your success feels tethered to their approval. You're no longer pursuing structure, you're pursuing validation. And it's genius. The guru knows your psychological weakness. They know that you fear isolation more than ignorance. They know that if they can make you feel part of something, you'll trade autonomy for belonging. You'll call it a community, but it's really captivity, because communities built around worship always kill individuality. You start thinking collectively, trading collectively, even losing collectively. And when you do win, you don't even know if it was because of you or because the guru said it was time. The trap deepens with guilt. When things don't work, you're told it's because you didn't follow the system well enough. You're blamed for not believing enough, not being disciplined enough, not trusting enough. That guilt keeps you spending, keeps you silent, keeps you trapped. Because now you're emotionally indebted. You don't want to leave and admit you were deceived. You'd rather double down on delusion than confront the pain of betrayal. This is why the guru trap is so effective. It doesn't just control your mind, it controls your identity. It reprograms the way you interpret the market. You no longer see data, you see doctrine. You no longer see price, you see prophecy. You don't analyze to understand, you analyze to confirm. The guru becomes your confirmation bias, and every piece of evidence that challenges them feels like an attack on your faith. And you know what's most tragic? The guru doesn't even have to be malicious. Sometimes they believe their own myth. They start thinking they're chosen, that their model is the only true model, that their way is the way. It's not just deception, it's delusion disguised as destiny. But whether intentional or not, the result is the same. You stop evolving, you stop building, you stop becoming. The guru trap transforms mentorship into dependence and dependence into devotion. And that devotion robs you of your greatest power, authorship. Because once you start worshiping, you stop creating. You can't be both a believer and a builder. You can't follow someone blindly and expect to see clearly. The guru trap teaches you to stop trusting your inner compass, the very thing that trading was designed to strengthen. Every true trader must face this crossroad. Do you want to understand the market, or do you just want someone to tell you what to believe about it? The first path is lonely, uncertain, and slow, but it builds structure. The second path feels safe, fast, and full of community, but it builds dependency. One turns you into a designer, the other turns you into a disciple. The modern trading world is flooded with digital gurus who understand one thing very well: attention equals income. The more charismatic they are, the more belief they can monetize. They know how to weaponize success stories, testimonials, and flashy setups. They don't teach you to think, they teach you to trust them. You don't learn the market, you learn their myth. And by the time you realize it, you've paid for belief instead of building comprehension. Let's go deeper. The guru trap survives on illusion layering. First, they sell knowledge. Then they sell mentorship. Then they sell community. Then they sell exclusivity. Each layer convinces you you're getting closer to the truth. But truth isn't hidden in a paid group. Truth reveals itself through structure, and structure reveals itself through process. The more you pay for proximity, the further you drift from authenticity. You start believing access equals advancement again, the same illusion mentorship started with. You think being in the guru's circle gives you power, but real power isn't in their circle. It's in your design. It's in the quiet place where you're testing, observing, and refining without validation. The guru can't sell that to you because it can't be transferred. It must be authored. What makes the guru trap so dangerous is that it looks like progress. You feel motivated, inspired, connected, but inspiration without structure leads to exhaustion. You get hyped every Sunday on Zoom calls and humbled every Monday by the market, and instead of realizing the system failed, you assume you failed. That's the trap. Self-blame protects the guru's image. You stay trapped, thinking one more mentorship cycle will finally fix you. But here's the quiet truth. No one can fix you. You don't need fixing. You need forming. And formation can't be outsourced. It's not found in courses or communities. It's found in the repetition of alignment, in your own structured engagement with uncertainty. Every time you choose observation over reaction, patience over pressure, reflection over noise, you're building structure. And that's something no guru can sell. The guru trap is seductive because it offers identity to the insecure. It gives you a place to belong when you're lost. But the price is individuality. And once you lose that, you lose authorship. And when authorship dies, so does conviction. That's the final stage of enslavement. When you can't tell whether you're trading your system or theirs, your voice or their echo. Here's the most unsettling truth. The guru doesn't need to lie to trap you. They just need you to believe they know more than you ever could. That belief alone is enough to make you surrender your discernment. And once discernment dies, critical thinking follows. You stop questioning entries, risk, logic, and start saying things like, "He said it's going up," as if that statement carries divine weight. That's not trading. That's idolatry. But rebellion begins when you detach from the illusion of perfection. When you stop needing a guru to tell you when to believe. When you stop treating mastery as something that can be downloaded from someone else's head. When you realize that the same structure you admire in them can be built within you. That's the real awakening, when you shift from dependence to design. The path of authorship is harder. It's lonelier. It doesn't come with followers, communities, or hype, but it's the only path that produces freedom. And that's what the guru fears most, a student who no longer needs him. Because a self-authored trader is unmarketable. You can't sell fear to someone who's found structure. You can't manipulate someone who's mastered uncertainty. That's the ultimate rebellion, when you no longer crave a teacher to feel complete. When you stop searching for profits and start constructing principles. When you stop looking for certainty outside and start creating it inside. That's when the guru trap collapses. Because you've stepped into authorship. And now we arrive at the truth they never tell you, the one buried beneath the noise, beneath the paywalls, beneath every overpriced mentorship promise, self-authorship. Because at the end of it all, the most powerful trader is not the one who followed the rules of a guru, but the one who wrote his own. Self-authorship is not rebellion for rebellion's sake. It's the conscious act of saying, I will no longer outsource my identity. It's that moment when you stop asking, what should I do? And begin declaring, here's what I'm building. Every truly great trader crosses that line eventually. You start in confusion, searching for someone who knows better. You obey, you mimic, you follow. But then you begin to notice something. The rules that were supposed to save you begin to restrict you. The certainty you were promised becomes a cage. You realize that growth didn't happen the moment you copied a system. It happened the moment you understood why the system worked. See, this is where mentorship ends and mastery begins. Because the true test of your maturity as a trader is not how well you follow someone else's rules. It's how precisely you define your own boundaries. The paid dependencies, the borrowed convictions, the shortcut illusions, the guru traps, they all exist to delay this realization. They make you believe that you need someone's permission to evolve. But you don't. What you need is the courage to think for yourself, to fail without shame, to learn without applause, and to build without validation. Self-authorship is not isolation. It's independence. It's when you realize that every piece of data, every loss, every setup, every impulsive click, they're all reflections of your own structure. You stop being at war with the market, and you begin to see it as a mirror. Every mistake becomes a clue. Every emotional trigger becomes a teacher. You start to sense that the answers are not out there in another man's model. They're buried in your own consistency. The reason so many traders stay trapped in endless mentorship loops is because they never make the transition from follower to creator. They build their trading identity on someone else's belief system, then wonder why their conviction collapses when the market shifts. They've memorized signals, but not meaning. They've mastered patterns, but not perception. The market exposes this instantly. It knows who's thinking and who's just copying. Here's the irony. The same traders who seek certainty through another person's mentorship are the ones the market keeps testing the hardest. Why? Because the market doesn't reward dependency. It rewards authorship. It rewards those who have defined their risk, designed their edge, and defended their psychology. You can't fake authorship. Not in trading, not in life. The moment you try to copy someone's authenticity, you lose your own. To walk the path of self-authorship, you must first destroy the illusion that you need to be taught what you can only build. There are things no mentor can give you. Your structure, your timing, your temperament. These are personal architectures. You don't learn them. You discover them through pressure, through failure, through the discomfort of designing your own framework when no one is watching. That's the secret no one wants to sell, because it can't be packaged, marketed, or monetized. True authorship is not about rejecting every mentor. It's about outgrowing them. The goal of mentorship was never supposed to be permanent guidance. It was supposed to be temporary exposure, a bridge to independence, but the modern industry twisted that bridge into a business model. So, you must reclaim it. Learn what you must, but never surrender your thinking. Take insights, but build structure. Let experience shape you, but don't let influence own you. Because the more you become a student of yourself, the less you need anyone's validation to move. Self-authorship also demands emotional sovereignty. The mature trader understands that conviction isn't something you borrow, it's something you cultivate. Every trade becomes a dialogue between your preparation and your discipline. You're no longer trading someone else's confidence, you're trading your own comprehension. You don't rush to Telegram groups after a loss. You don't need a coach to tell you to stick to your rules. You know that the only accountability that truly matters is the one between your execution and your design. And here's where the transformation truly happens. When your structure becomes so intentional, so aligned, that your emotions finally trust it. That's when trading stops being chaos and starts becoming craft. You've internalized the model. You've trained your nervous system to act on design, not impulse. And once that happens, you don't just make trades, you author outcomes. This is the identity shift every real trader must undergo. You stop chasing the illusion of mentorship, and you begin mentoring your own evolution. You start questioning not what the market is doing, but what you are expressing through your trades. You see, mentorship teaches you what to think. Authorship teaches you how to think. And that difference changes everything. Let's be brutally honest. Most of what's being sold as mentorship today is designed to keep you dependent. They promise mastery, but they never teach you how to become your own authority. They talk about freedom, yet they profit from your need for direction. But there's something dangerous about a trader who no longer needs to be told what to do. He becomes uncontrollable. And that's exactly what you're meant to become. Uncontrollable. Not reckless, but ungoverned by the illusions that keep most traders weak. Because when you reach that level, your calm becomes power. Your detachment becomes clarity. Your patience becomes your weapon. You stop reacting to the market and start designing with it. You no longer fear drawdowns. You understand their language. You don't crave validation. You crave precision. That's what it means to author your craft, to become the structure that others are still searching for. The mentor was meant to point you to yourself, not replace yourself. If he didn't do that, then it wasn't mentorship. It was marketing. And if you're still paying someone to give you conviction, you haven't yet met yourself. The day you do, you'll realize no one can teach you consistency. They can only model it. But you must become it. So maybe this is where the rebel in you finally awakens. Maybe this is where you stop following and start building. Because that's what being a trading rebel is about. Not rejecting wisdom, but reclaiming authorship. You don't need a guru to validate your identity. You need structure, reflection, and integrity. That's how rebellion matures into mastery. And if this message resonates with you, if you're tired of being sold the idea that your power lies in someone else's program, then welcome home. You're exactly where you need to be. This is Trading Rebels, where we dismantle illusions and rebuild structure from the inside out. Subscribe, share, and drop your reflections below. Let the others chase gurus. You build systems. You build identity. You build authorship. Because the future of trading belongs to those who write their own doctrine.